welcome back to CBSE Learners. This is me, Pooja M. K. Rao. I welcome you all to my online class where you can learn free of cost. Okay, so before I go into the lesson and start my class, I would like to request you all whether you have subscribed my channel or not. If not, then go and subscribe my channel and come back, and don't forget to hit the bell button or else you won't be notified about my class. So this class is particularly for class 10, and the chapter we are going to deal is the rise of nationalism in Europe. Now, before I go into the lesson and start the chapter, it's very important to know what is nationalism, as the chapter deals with the rise of nationalism in a continent like Europe and what was the need to get nationalism. So, what does nationalism means? Nationalism is something or a desire or a wish of a same group of people who belongs to same caste or who belongs to same place and same race, and they wish to get an independent country. Okay, so it's the wish, it's actually the desire of a group of people who belongs to same race and language to get an independent country. Okay, where they will have equal opportunities, everything they will be equally provided, where they can share, they have the freedom of speech, where they can share their thoughts and they can do whatever they want. Okay, so this is nationalism, and why it was important, so and why it has risen in Europe, we will learn in this chapter. Okay, so I will ask each and every of you who are watching this video to take out your book, as I am going to read line by line as we follow in the traditional method of teaching. Okay, so let's see. The lesson starts with the picture. So you can see the picture. See, this is the picture. Okay, it's given by the Frederic Soriot, a French artist. Okay, so this is actually a part of the 4-print visual which the artist, a French artist, Frederic Soriot has given. Okay, and it is in this picture you can see that it is demonstrating for the independent country where everyone will be treated equally. Okay, so you have, and this first paragraph, as you can see the first paragraph, it visualizes, it explains what there is in the picture. Okay, so let's read. In 1848, so this visual print has been given in the year 1848. Frederic Soriot, a French artist, prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republics. Now here you are getting democratic and social republic, more new 2 terms. Now what does this democratic means? Democratics. It has come from the word democracy, where their elected representative will be chosen by the citizens of the country. Okay, in democracy, the elected representative of the country will be chosen by the citizens of the country, so that elected representative will think about the citizens of the country. It should not follow any hierarchy or any culture like the father is the representative, so equally the son has to become the representative, which used to happen in the monarchical system. So it is actually the system where the representative is chosen chose by the citizens of any country. And social republic means in a country there should be socialism, like they should share equal values and equal moral values. Okay, they should not harm each other. Now, as he called them, the first print, the figure 1, this is the first print. Okay, among that 4 prints, this is the first print. So the description of the first print is given. Okay, so in the first print of the series shows the people of Europe and America, men and women of all ages and social classes. So the people of America and Europe, men of all social classes, it can be men, it can be women. What they are doing? They are marching in a long train, in the form of a train. They are marching and they are offering tribute to they are saluting and paying homage to the Statue of Liberty. Okay, as they pass by. As you could recall, so as you can remember that in French times, or at that time, the artists, they have thought of the Statue of Liberty as a female character. Okay, so they described the Statue of Liberty as a female lady character. As would you recall, artists of the time of the French Revolution personified liberty. So they have personified means they have given a statue some living image, and they have given what type of image? A image of a lady. Okay, female figure. As you can recognize, the torch of enlightenment she bears in one hand. So she was bearing one torch of enlightenment, of knowledge, and the Charter of Rights of man in the other. So in the Charter of Rights, or the documents of right, which each and every man should have in the other hand. Okay, so on the earth, in the foreground, the image lies shattered remains of the symbol of absolutist institution. Now, what does the absolutist institution mean? What does absolutist mean? Absolutist is similar to monarchical rule, where the power is vested on one ruler, and according to that ruler, he runs the country. So in the nearby, at one side of this picture, they have given the shattered remains of the absolutist institutions, the absolutist monarch, where in Soros' utopian vision. Now it's important to give you the meaning of the term absolutist institution. Okay, so you will get in your book. Still, I prefer to give you absolutist institutions. So what does it mean? The term refers to the form of monarchical government and or rule where the power rests upon one ruler. Okay, so you have understood the meaning of the term absolutist institutions. Let's read further. In Soros' utopian vision, now what's this utopian vision? It's a vision, it's the image of a society that type of society is unlikely to exist. Means it's not possible, or it's very difficult to exist. Okay, so I will give this glossary also, this meaning also, utopian vision. Okay, it means a vision of a society, a vision of a society which is unlikely or hardly to exist. Okay, now in his utopian vision, the people of the world are grouped as distinct nations. So now in this present times, we can see that we are distinct as a distinct nation. Okay, we are described as a distinct nation. we have separate flag, other countries are having separate flag, and depending on that flag we are separated as a distinct nation. Okay, so nations identified through their flags and national costume. Leading the procession way past the Statue of Liberty are the United States and Switzerland, which by this time was already nation states. So, which were already by the time was nation states. Okay. France, identifiable by the revolutionary tricolor. So, France was identifiable by the revolutionary tricolor. Okay, tricolor of the flag. Has just reached the statue. She is followed by the peoples of Germany bearing the flag. So at that time already France, they have reached the this democracy or the nation state or the principle of nation state. But at their back they were the people from Germany who are still fighting bearing the black, red and gold flag. Interestingly, at the time when Soryu created this image, German people did not yet exist as a united nation. So when this image was created, Germans were not existed as united nations. Still they were under the absolutist institution. Okay. So because they are following the French, you can understand that he was thinking the Germans also to become as a, in future they will also start revolution and they will also become the nation state. Okay, so the flag they carry is an expansion of liberal hopes in 1848 to unify the numerous German-speaking principalities into a nation state under a democratic constitution. Following the German people are the people of Austria, the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary and Russia. From the heavens, so in the picture you have seen that from the heavens, the angels, God and Jesus Christ, the main representative of the God, they are all watching and they are happy to see the fraternity or the love bond between the nations. Okay, so Jesus Christ, from the heavens above, Christ, saints and angels gaze upon the sea. They were all looking at the sea. They have been used by the artist to symbolize fraternity among the nations of the world. So why they are used? They are used to symbolize the fraternity. What does the fraternity mean? What the word fraternity means? Fraternity means love bond between nations. Between nations. Okay, it's a good behavior or good bond or a love bond between two nations. Okay, so this chapter, now why it is the importance of this picture? So this chapter is going to deal with all the issues they have faced and what this picture is saying. Okay, so this chapter will deal with many of the issues visualized by Soryu in figure 1. During the 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought about sweeping changes in the political and mental world of the Europe. So, nationalism brought a vast change in the political nationalism of Europe. Okay, political and mental world of Europe. The end result of these changes was emergence of the nation state in place of multinational dynastic empires. So, instead of multinational dynastic empires which was ruled by the monarchical system, there emerged nation state. Why they emerged? Because of the result of rise of nationalism. Okay, so because of the result of rise of nationalism, they emerged. Now, what does this nation state means? Okay, so the term nation state means, let me give you nation state. So the result of the rise of nationalism in Europe is the emergence of nation state. Now what does this nation state means? Okay, so the concept and practices of a modern state, or the opposite of nation state is modern state. Okay, so these are opposite to each other. So nation state is where a state is having all the sovereign powers on administrative territory, all the political sovereign powers they are having to rule, And modern state is where the power is vested on a centralized ruler, or it is equal to the monarchical absolutist institution. Okay, so let me give you the definition of modern state, nation state, in which the majority of its citizens, it is in which majority of its citizens, and not only its rulers, came to develop a sense of common identity and shared history of descendants. History or descendants. Okay, so in case of nation state, all the privileges were led to the nation or the state. All the sovereign power rests on the state and its citizen. But in case of now, what does mean modern state? In case of modern state, the power lays in the hand of the monarchical ruler or one centralized person. Okay, so it's time to give you the definition of modern state, in which a centralized power is exercised sovereign control over a clearly defined territory. Had clearly defined territory. Okay, so this is the definition of modern state and nation state. Okay, so let's read. This chapter will deal with many of the issues visualized by Soryu in figure 1. During the 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought about sweeping changes in the political and mental world of the Europe. The end result of these changes was the emergence of the nation state in place of the multinational dynastic empires of Europe. The concept and practices of a modern state, in which a centralized power exercised sovereign control over a clearly defined territory, had been developing over a long period of time in Europe. But a nation state was one in which the majority of citizens and not only its ruler came to develop a sense of common identity and shared history or descendants. This commonness did not exist from time immemorial. It was forged through a struggle through action of leaders and the common people. So nation state, the emergence of nation state was not easy. It was the contribution of all the leaders, all the struggles of the leaders, with the problems they have faced to bring nationalism and to bring the emergence of nation state. Okay. This chapter will look at the diverse processes through which nation states and nationalism came into 19th century in Europe. Okay, so in Europe in 19th century, nationalism emerged first time, and for the first time the nationalism has rose in Europe. Okay, so here you will get in one yellow box, you can see here. Okay, so here Ernest Renan, according to Ernest Renan, who was a philosopher, French philosopher, he defined nation in a different way. Okay, so what is nation according to Ernest Renan? In a lecture delivered at the University of Sorbonne in 1882, the Sorbonne is a place in Paris. Okay, the French philosopher Ernest Renan, 1823, he was born in 1892, he passed away, outlined his understanding of what makes a nation. Okay, so the lecture was subsequently published as a famous essay entitled Who west see, hui un nation. Okay, so the meaning is, it's a French term, who west see, who un nation. So it means what is nation. So according to him, the definition of nation is something different to what we think. In his essay, Renan criticizes the notion suggested by others that a nation is formed by common language, race, religion or country. So he criticized, he was against the, Renan was against the concept what we believe that the nation is for a particular country, it belongs with the people of particular race, particular religion and particular country. He was against that. According to him, the nation is a culmination of long past endeavors, sacrifice and devotion. Long past sacrifices they have given, long past hard work. Endeavors means hard work they have done. Sacrifice and devotion. A heroic past, great men, glory, that is social capital upon which one bases a national idea. So it's the work, it's a hard work which our national leaders had done, the sacrifices they have given, the devotion they have shown to the country. It's not just a simple answer like it belongs with the same people of particular place, region, caste, religion or a country. It's something different, like it's the hard work or the sacrifices and the devotion the leaders have done to get the nation. Okay, a heroic past, great men, glory, that is the social capital upon which one bases a national idea. So a national idea basis, it belongs, why? What is the base behind our national idea? A heroic past with great men, glory, that is the social capital upon which one bases a national idea. To have a common glories in the past, to have a common will in the present, to have performed great deeds together, to wish to perform still more. This nation is therefore a large-scale solidarity. Its existence is daily plebiscite. So what does the plebiscite, what does the term plebiscite mean? A direct vote by which all the people of region are asked to accept or reject a proposal. So it's a voting process where all the people of a region are asked to whether they are agreeing with the proposal or they are rejecting the proposal. Okay. So what does the term plebiscite mean? Let me write down. Plebiscite. Plebiscite. Okay. Now what does this plebiscite mean? It's a process of direct voting. It's a process of direct voting where the people of a particular region are asked to agree with or to reject a proposal. Okay. So the term plebiscite means it's a process of direct voting, but the people of a particular region were asked whether they are agreeing with the proposal or they are rejecting the proposal. Okay. A province is its inhabitants. If anyone has the right to be consulted, it is the inhabitant. A nation never has any real interest in annexing or holding on to a country against its will. The existence of nation is a good thing, a necessity even. Their existence is a guarantee of liberty. A nation is very important because it guarantees liberty, whether you are free or not, whether you are having, what does liberty mean? Liberty means whether you are having freedom of speech or not, whether you are having all the rights what you want to speak where you want to go. Okay, so liberty is a state where it's a condition where you are having the right to pursue any profession, to do what you want and to speak what is the truth. Okay, which would be lost if the world has only one law and one master. So if the world is having one law, one master, then it's not possible because everything will be ruled by the one person only. You won't have the right to speak what you want to speak. You cannot speak what you want. You cannot do what you want. You cannot pursue what you want to pursue, because everything will be ruled by the one person. Okay. So this is the introduction of the chapter. So I preferred to give you line by line explanation. Okay. So it must be lengthy for you or it must be boring, I don't know. But I prefer to give you line by line explanation, as sometimes you don't prefer to open the book, isn't it? So if you don't open the book, if you are seeing my video or listening to my video, it will be clear to you. Okay. So next, the first thing comes the French Revolution. So today I will continue only up to the French Revolution. Okay. And the idea of nation. So the first thing is French Revolution. Now why the French Revolution started? Because it was a monarchical state in France. Okay. So it was very difficult for them to stay under the monarchical rule of the Louis XVI, isn't it? So for that sake, the French Revolution started in France, and it started with the destruction of Bastille Fort in 14th July 1789. So always remember, in your book it's not given the destruction of Bastille Fort, but the destruction of Bastille Fort started the revolution or the French Revolution in 14th July 1789. You have to remember the date. Okay, it's very important to remember the date 14th July 1789. Okay, so let's start the French Revolution. Let's read line by line. The first clear expression of the nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. France, as you would remember, was a full-fledged territorial state in 1789 under the rule of an absolute monarch. The political and constitutional changes that came in the wake of French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from the monarchy to the body of French citizens. So, the result of the French Revolution was the transfer of sovereignty. Sovereignty means the supreme power. The supreme power has transformed from the monarch to the French bodies or the French citizens. Okay, this is French Revolution 1789. Okay, so the absolute result is the transfer of sovereignty, transfer of supreme power from the monarch to the French bodies or the French citizens. Okay, the revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. The revolution said that it's the people of France are the French people who are going to decide what will be the destiny of the country. Okay. From the very beginning of the French revolutionaries introduced various measures and practices that could create a sense of collective identity amongst the French people. The idea of la patrie means the fatherland. The fatherland. La patrie means it's a French term. It means the fatherland. Okay. Next comes the les citoyens. Les citoyens means the citizen. Les citoyens means the citizens. So, the French Revolution brought the emergence of these terms or these ideas or these practices like the fatherland, la patrie, les citoyens, the citizens into existence. Okay. This emphasized the notion of a united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. So what is the advantage or the importance of these terms and this emergence of this idea? That all the people, all the community, all the people of the country should exercise equality and equal freedom, equal power, equality they should have without any differentiation between rich or poor or the caste or irrespective of caste, creed, religion or gender. Okay. Next, read of new national flag, the tricolor, was chosen to replace the former royal standard flag. So they made new flag which was of 3 colors, tricolor flag, instead of the flag which to belong to the royal family or the royal monarch. They replaced the royal flag and they brought into existence the tricolor French flag. Okay. Next. Okay, the Estates General was elected by the body of active citizens and renamed in the National Assembly. So they started democracy. Now the elected generals or the government was elected by the citizens of the country and they named it as National Assembly. So what is the National Assembly? The elected generals, National Assembly. Okay, what does it mean? The elected the estate generals elected by the citizens of the country, citizens of the French country. Okay, and they named it as National Assembly. Okay, clear what is National Assembly? So it was the government, actually the government of the normal or the democratic government which was elected by the normal citizens of the France, okay, or the country. New hymns were composed. Hymns are the national song, okay. Like our country is also having national song, national anthem. So they also composed national songs, hymns. Okay, oaths were taken. They took vows. They took promises what to do and how to save the country, how to bring nationalism or how to protect the country. Okay, how to keep safe the democracy in the country. Martyrs commemorated. Martyrs are the soldiers who died in the struggle of nationalism or for the struggle of independence. Okay, so those are the martyrs. They were respected and commemorated. All in the name of nation. So all they have done in the name of nation. A centralized administrative system was put in place and it formulated uniform laws for all citizens within its territory. Internal customs, duties and dues were abolished. Internal customs, duties and dues. So what are these internal customs, duties and dues? These are the all internal taxes which were levied on the poor or the peasant classes. Okay, so this is the main reason, actually one of the main reason, not only main reason, one of the main reason, because there were several reasons. Okay, so this is one of the reason why they broke into revolution. Okay, so these all taxes and all they have stopped, they have banned. Okay, regional dialects were discouraged. So every region is having some sort of dialects or language, so they stopped that and they made French as a national dialect. Okay, the revolutionary further declared that it was the mission and the destiny of French nation to liberate peoples of Europe from despotism. So the French revolutionary then started to concentrate on the other parts of the Europe, and they thought that they have to free them, they have to liberate them, they have to free them from the monarchs or the monarchical rule, so that they will be freed from the despotism or the oppression of the monarchical ruler. Okay, in other words, to help other people of Europe to become nations, and their intention was to make the other part of the Europe as a nation, to exist it as a nation. Okay, when the news of events in France reached the different cities of Europe, students and other members of educated middle class began setting up Jacobins clubs. So Jacobin clubs is a club where they used to formulate new ideas how to develop nationalism in the other states or the other parts of the Europe. Okay, their activities and campaigns prepared the way for the French armies, which moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and much of Italy in 1790s. Okay, so in 1790s, slowly French army started to emerge in parts of Holland, Switzerland, Belgium and some parts of Italy too. With the outbreak of Revolutionary War, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. So, the success of French Revolution helped the French armies to carry their idea of revolution to the different part of the Europe. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. Next emerged Hitler. Okay, so sorry, it's not Hitler, it's Napoleon. Okay, so within the wide swath of territory that came under his control, Napoleon set about introducing many of the reforms that he had already introduced in France. So, as you can understand, once again, the democracy has stopped with the emergence of Napoleon. Okay, sorry, I have mistakenly said it as a Hitler, but it's not Hitler, it's Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, so with the emergence of the rule of Napoleon, the democracy has ended in the French colonies or the France, as it became like before. Okay, but still, though a return to monarchy, Napoleon had no doubt destroyed democracy in France, but in administrative field he had incorporated revolutionary principle. Okay, so he has incorporated some revolutionary principle in the administrative level. Okay, in order to make the whole system more rational and efficient. So what does the term rational means? To think logically, to think with brain instead of thinking with emotion. So, though we agree that the democracy has ended with the emergence of Napoleon Bonaparte to the monarchical rule once again on the throne of France, but he introduced some sort of revolutionary ideas or rational thinking with some sort of administrative principles which was based on the rational thinking, logical thinking, and which were efficient. We cannot deny the fact that the thinking were not irrational. Okay, we cannot say that the thinking were all irrational. It's actually rational. It was logically thought and it was not ineffective. It was efficient. It was effective. Okay. So next further read. The Civil Code of 1804. So you have to remember this Civil Code of 1804. Why? Because it was a code which was adopted by the ruler Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay. Usually known as the Napoleonic Code. So it's the Napoleonic Code, the Civil Code of 1804. Okay, Civil Code. The Civil Code of 1804, which is also known as Napoleonic Code. Okay. So, what does it state? This code was exported to the regions under French control in the Dutch Republic, in Switzerland, in Italy, in Germany. Napoleon simplified administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system. So, he abolished the feudal system and freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. So, he has freed the peasants from the revenues, from paying those unnecessary taxes, from becoming a slave, and they have freed them from the manorial rule. Okay, dues. Sorry, the dues or the taxes they used to pay. Okay, in the towns too, guild restrictions were removed. So in towns we know that when there was before French Revolution there was the guilds. Okay, so he has removed the guild restrictions. So before the guilds were restricted in the town. So later Napoleon continued with the revolutionary principles of restrictions of the guild restrictions were removed. Okay. Transport and communication systems were improved. So he has improved the transport and communication system. So these are the advantages of Napoleonic rule. Okay. So the question can come like this. What are the advantages of Napoleonic rule? Okay. Peasants, artisans, workers and new businessmen enjoyed a newfound freedom. Businessmen and small-scale producers of goods in particular began to realize that uniform laws, standardized weights and measures, and a common national currency would facilitate the movement and exchange of goods and capital from one region to another. So they have understood that the standardized weights and measures and common national currency, and if they are having some sort of common national currency, it would help them to deal or business with the other parts of the state or the other part of the country. Okay, instead of staying in one place. So there was a development in the business. Okay, economical business and businessmen or business have flourished at that time. However, in the areas conquered, the reaction of the local population to French rule were mixed. But though he has conquered most of the French places, the reaction of the people was mixed. Few people were happy, few people were not happy. They were unhappy. Okay. Initially, in many places such as Holland and Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, Mainz and Milan, Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty. So the French army were seen as the harbingers of liberty, that they are the carrier of liberty. Wherever they go, they will bring liberty, freedom of speech, action and equality, isn't it? But the initial enthusiasm should turn to hostility as it became clear that the new administrative arrangement did not go hand in hand with the political freedom. So though there was a lot of development, but they can understand there are no political freedom. Like a freedom is there in democratic country. But since the democracy has gone once again from the so the transfer of power has gone from the democracy to the monarchical power once again. Still, there was a mixed reaction. Okay. But the initial enthusiasm soon turned into hostility as it became clear that the new administrative arrangement did not go hand in hand with political freedom. So what are the disadvantages we will learn now of the Napoleonic rule? Okay, increased taxation, censorship, forced conscription into the French armies, prepared to conquer the rest of the world, Europe, all seem to outweigh the advantages of the administrative changes. So these are all the disadvantages of the Napoleonic rule, which just shattered the advantages of the administrative principles which Napoleon has obtained. They have just shattered they have put just water in all those principles of the administrative principles of the Napoleonic rule. Okay, so we will continue up to this. Next we will start the making of nationalism in Europe, because already it's a very lengthy video. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, just hit the like button and share with your friends if you think it's useful for you and your friends. Okay, thanks a lot for staying tuned with us. Stay tuned with us for more effective and informational videos. Okay, bye bye.